So I recently stumbled upon this programming language called Ring, and it's interesting to say the least. There's no information on it besides a couple Reddit posts and little YouTube videos that don't have that many views on them. Yet this language is highly developed, already being past version 1, highly documented and updated regularly. So today we're going to look at what Ring is, what it tries to do, and some examples of how it works. So what even is this mysterious language? Ring describes itself as a practical, general-purpose, multi-paradigm dynamic programming language for developing applications, tools, and domain-specific languages. The supported programming paradigms are imperative, procedural, object-oriented, declarative, functional, metaprogramming, and natural programming. The language is portable, supporting platforms like MS-DOS, Windows, Linux, macOS, Android, WebAssembly, microcontrollers, and more, and can be used to create console, GUI, web, games, and mobile applications. The language is designed to be simple, lightweight, flexible, and embeddable. Sounds pretty interesting, but let's take a look at what it offers. Ring can be used to develop GUI applications in a short time since it has rapid application development tools, or RAD, that can be used to quickly develop GUI applications using MVC design patterns. Now this is what really interested me. Ring has first-class support for game development, with many game libraries built into the standard library. Ring provides native support for Allegro, libstdl, Raylib, OpenGL, and Qt3D libraries. It even has a custom game engine for 2D game development built in. The only other language I've seen that does something similar is Odin, which I think is pretty cool. It also has WebAssembly support for front-end development, support for back-end development, mobile development, and the ability to write CLI tools. One thing Ring emphasizes is its syntax flexibility, having 3 different styles of syntax that could even be combined so you could have custom style. So you can have a Python style syntax, a Ruby style syntax, or you can have a syntax similar to other languages with curly braces. You can even completely change keywords if you wanted to really make it yours. One thing that Ring strives for is trying to be natural with the use of natural language programming, which means to write code closely to human natural language. So instead of doing this, you can do this. It talks about this more in the documentation, but this is what I took from it. Now that's just what Ring offers, but let's see how you can actually do things in Ring. There are 3 different ways you can print text to the console. You can use the C keyword, the print function, and the question mark. These all do the same thing, but the question mark adds a new line automatically while the C doesn't. You can also have multi-line literals in Ring. Ring is not case sensitive, so you could do something like this and be fine. Much like Pascal, which is also not case sensitive. To get user input, you just use the give keyword and use that variable. For control structures, there are 3 different ways to write them. For if statements, you can do if but else okay, if else and end, or the same as the second style, just with curly braces. For switch statements, you could do switch on other off, switch case else end, or the same as the second one, just with curly braces again. For looping, there are again 3 different styles. For while loops, there's really only 2 you can do, just while end and while with curly braces. For for loops, there's 3, so you can do for to next, for to end, or the same as the second one, just with curly braces. For each loops, you can either use the for each keyword or just a regular for keyword. Just instead of 2, you do end. For functions, there are again 3 different styles. You can have a Python style, a Ruby style, or a curly brace style. To create a list in Ring, you just use the square brackets. You can also create a new list with the colon. You can also create a list with the list function. To make a 2D list, you can also use the list function. To add to a list, you can use the add function or just use the plus operator. To get the size of a list, you can use the len function. To remove something from a list, you can use the del function. And to get or set a certain item from a list, you can use the square brackets next to the name with the index, much like other languages. 2 of the paradigms Ring supports is functional, with pure functions, first-class functions, higher-order functions, anonymous and nested functions, and equality of functions. And also supports object-oriented programming with classes and objects, composition, setters and getters, private attributes and methods, operator overloading, inheritance, and dynamic attributes. Let's say we want a class called person that has a name and an age. We can do that like this. Unlike other languages, you don't need a separate constructor method. You can just directly put in the attributes. But what if we want the person to say their name and age? We can do that by just adding a function called say name and age. Inside, we just print my name is plus name, plus I am, plus age, and then years old. Now to actually create an object, there are a few ways of doing this. You can do it like this, or like this with the dot operator, or like this, combining the dot operator and the curly braces. For debugging, you got the try catch done, and the assert function, which will test conditions before executing. There is also the eval function, which executes the code during runtime from a string. What I find very cool about Ring is its library support. It has many game libraries built into the language, including a custom game engine built built-in OpenGL and Allegro. To include a library, for example Raylib, you just do load and then raylib.ring. And now you have Raylib loaded in. To distribute a Ring application, you can use ring2exe. To use it, you just call ring2exe, your Ring file, and then whatever options you need. If you want to build the standalone executable, you do -static, but if you want to include all the libraries built in, you do -all runtime. So if you are distributing to people, you don't need certain DLLs for certain libraries. Now, I didn't cover everything about the language, just what I found interesting in the few days I was checking it out. At the end of the day, Ring feels like one of those languages that quietly does a lot of unique things without drawing much attention to itself. It's flexible without being overwhelming, powerful without requiring a mountain of setup, and expressive in a way that genuinely tries to lower the barrier between human thought and code. The emphasis on natural language programming, syntax freedom, and built-in libraries, especially for game development, makes Ring feel much more like a toolkit than a rigid language. That said, Ring isn't without its downside. Its small community and limited online presence mean fewer tutorials, fewer search results, and less real-world adoption compared to mainstream languages. But for developers who enjoy experimenting with languages or building things quickly without much hassle, Ring offers something refreshingly different. Ring may not be the next Rust or Python, but it doesn't seem like it's trying to be. Instead, it carves its own space as it carves out its own space as a highly practical, approachable, and surprisingly mature language that's well worth a look, especially if you value expressiveness, rapid development, and experimentation. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments, and make sure